In the previous video we went over the general settings for your site. This included things such as customizing the site title and slogan, and banner images and logos. And as I mentioned, all of those settings are site-wide, but if you want to customize something on a per page basis, we need to use the Page Inspector. Open the Page Inspector by clicking on the I button. There are a lot of settings in the Page Inspector, so let's just cover a few of the main ones to get started. Firstly, there's some general settings. Here you can tell Rapidweaver if this page should be a draft. This means that it won't be published and it won't be included in your navigation. You can also hide this page from the navigation. This is slightly different from draft because the page will still be published and available online. Next, you can set some metadata such as the browser title, the folder name, and file name. We'll look at those in another video. However, let's go down to the bottom here and look at overriding some default settings. If you remember from the previous video, we set the title and slogan. We can override those for just this page by checking each box and entering a new title. We can also enter a new slogan. And as you can see, Rapidweaver automatically updates in the background for us. So here you can see that I've entered a new title and something different for the slogan. If we go to our other two pages, it will be using the title and slogan that we added in the general settings. On the second tab in the Page Inspector is where you can add some sidebar content. If you look on this theme, we have a sort of blank translucent bar here. This is where the sidebar content will be added. I'm just going to copy some of this text and paste it into the sidebar to show you how it works. So here you can see that the text has been added to the sidebar here. Because all new themes in Rapidweaver are responsive, on this smaller size display, the sidebar is displayed below the main content. If I close the Page Inspector quickly, you'll see that the sidebar is then displayed to the right of the main content area. This is because there is enough space to do so within the viewport. If you want to keep your page size consistent, you can use the Floating Inspector option, and you can get the Floating Inspector by clicking on this I button in the toolbar. Here you get all of the same settings, but it doesn't change the size of the preview window. So let's look at the next tab in the Page Inspector. This tab is for the HTML code and is more of an advanced feature, so we won't be covering this in too much detail in these getting started videos. We have more dedicated advanced videos available on the site. However, I'll just give you a quick overview of each option. In the CSS tab, you can add custom CSS code. This is handy if you want to customize something on the page that isn't available within the theme customization options. Next, there's a JavaScript tag. Here you can add some custom JavaScript. Next is the Pre tab. This is handy if you have some PHP code that needs to be placed before the doc type declaration inside of your HTML. Then we have a Header tab. Any code placed in here will be added inside of the head HTML tag. Finally, there is a Body tab. This will add content just before the closing body tag. As I say, all of these have slightly more advanced features and we'll cover those in a different series. But if you see at the bottom here, you'll get a hint of what each tab does. So let's move to the next tab of the Page Inspector. This one is Meta Tags. A new feature in Rapidweaver 7 is the Description Meta Tag box. Here you can add a unique description for each page of your website. Rapidweaver will automatically create a description meta tag for you. Next we have two options for the robots. Again, this is slightly more advanced and we'll cover all of these options in other videos on the site. Finally, at the bottom here you can add custom meta tags. So if you click the plus button, you can add something like an author meta tag and enter your name. This will automatically add the author meta tag to your page. So let's look at the next tab. This one is Theme Customizations. By default, every page uses the master style. We'll look at that in another video, so for now you can uncheck this box and customize how this page looks. Keep in mind that any changes you make here will only be applied to this page. If you want to change the master style for your entire site, you can do so in the master style setting in the sidebar here. And as I say, we'll look at that in another video in this series. So before we do any customization, I should note that every theme has different customization options. All of the customization is controlled by the theme itself, not by Rapidweaver. So let's just have a quick look at changing a couple of the more simpler options in this theme. For example, the background overlay. Here you can see that we have a slightly dark overlay on top of an image. We can change the opacity to something more light so we can see more of the image. We can also change the color. We might want something like a lighter grey. If you do this, you might want to change the title color and the slogan color as well. You can do so by scrolling down to the site title section here and clicking on the color. Perhaps we should make this black so you can see it more clearly. We can also change the site description. Again, if we change that to black, you'll be able to see the text more clearly. So as you can see, theme customization is really powerful, and we have more detailed videos about theme customization on the community site. But for now, let's scroll back to the top here and go back to using the master styles. You'll then see that Rapidweaver applies the default styles for this theme. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll look at editing the master styles in another video. Finally, the last tab on the page inspector are the page specific settings. So for the markdown page that we're using, there's simply a markdown cheat sheet. This gives you some handy information on how you can customize the text on your page. If I switch to the gallery page, you can see that this last tab has some settings for the gallery. And here, for example, we could change the album title to something like this. Now when we go back and refresh the preview, you'll see that the album title is updated. And just to reiterate this, if I go to the Contact Us page, which is a contact form, and we'll get different settings in the Page tab of the Page Inspector. So here you can set your email address and some other options for this form. So that covers the basics of the Page Inspector inside of Rapidweaver 7. I'll see you in the next video.